with the expertise that we've developed during the last few years, and then especially for the people that are at risk and the others that are not, we had the consideration of the Community of Immunization of Quebec, which is led by Dr. Caroline Quach, who's going to replace me in a few days. So with that in mind, we considered that it's not a great advantage to be vaccinated if you're not in group that are at risk.
So that's Dr. Luc Boileau. He's, of course, Montreal's public health director for a few more days anyway, talking about the fact that now as you get set for the fall to move in and people, of course, concerned, COVID's still around. Heard the other day, Mitsumi actually was saying she knows 2 people who have COVID right now. So, yeah, it's not gone. But then you find out that Quebec is going to limit access to the COVID-19 vaccine. And by the way, if you don't fall into that group where you would be able to get it, you will pay for it. And it's not inexpensive. We heard yesterday, they confirmed it would be somewhere between $150 to $180 to get the COVID-19 vaccine. We wanted to find out what Dr. Chris Labos thinks about this, cardiologist with a degree in epidemiology and a regular here on CJAD. So, Dr. Chris, what do you think about this? I mean, it seems to me, it's one thing to say you'll have to pay for it. That seems a pretty steep price.
Yeah, it really does. And I mean, I'm not quite sure where this price is coming from. I mean, we don't know specifically how much Canada was paying for the vaccines during the pandemic. But the reports that we had seen was that the cost for disorders was ranging somewhere between $20 to $30 per dose. So somewhat unclear, at least to me, why the price would be so much more than that. But, you know, this is the problem. A lot of times drug pricing is very opaque, and it's actually not really transparent as to where the markups are happening, by whom, and for what reason.
So let me get back to what he said in that little clip we played, right? So the vaccine will remain free for people, what he say, considered at risk. And that includes people, by the way, age 65 and older. That decision in and of itself, is that the right decision as far as you're concerned, given that COVID-19 has not gone away?
Well, it depends who you ask. I'm sure there are some people that think this is the right decision. I personally think we would have been better served by a more universal vaccination policy, because if you remember, pre-COVID, we had something similar to this for influenza, right? If you were under the age of 65 and didn't have medical problems, you had to pay for it, and There was always these complications. And then during the pandemic, they said, okay, we're just going to make influenza available to everybody, which is what every other province did, right? Quebec was an outlier there. It depends what your objective is. If your objective is to use a limited number of healthcare resources in the most effective way possible, again, as an administrator, you're going into this saying, who is the highest risk group? Let me take the limited number of doses I have at my disposal, and let me make sure that I vaccinate all the people who are living in institutions, long-term care, the very elderly, the people who are immunocompromised, the people who are most likely to end up in a hospital and die. If your objective, though, is to have the most sort of straightforward public health policy, I think you'd be better served by saying, everybody, come and get vaccinated. When fall rolls around, come get your COVID influenza shot in one shot. And look, some people will choose not to do it. I mean, the young, healthy people are probably not going to do it anyways, just because of complacency and all that. And I think you then have a much cleaner, more direct narrative, and easier to explain narrative to people, because now it's like, okay, you get vaccinated if you're over the age of 65, or if you're immunocompromised, or if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease. Well, first of all, that ends up being a very large swath of the population anyways. And then you get into all these complex questions like, well, do I qualify? Am I immunocompromised? If I have diabetes, but it's well controlled, if I have heart issues, the COPD count as a lung condition. And if everybody had a family doctor, and then you say, well, go to your family doctor and they'll decide if you need to get vaccinated or not. But now we're in a situation where a lot of people don't have family doctors. So it just becomes a little bit complicated. And I think we probably would have been better served the other way.
Is the recommendation, if I can ask, given it's not gone away, COVID-19 is still around, people, if you're in good health, for example, and you wouldn't fit into the categories as outlined by the public health director, would you tell people to go get a vaccine anyway for COVID?
Well, here's the thing. If it was free, yes. If it's $100, that starts to become a lot for people. Yeah. And, I could afford it. Probably a lot of people are saying, well, I can afford it. Why not? It is a considerable sum of money. And, I mean, I personally would love to know where that price point came from, because that seems out of keeping with what we know about the cost of the vaccine.
All right. I don't want to run out of time, and I want to get to the story. Alice pointed this out to me yesterday. So the idea of an annual checkup. So is it a myth that adults need a physical exam every year or not?
Yes, it is, in the very, very specific sense of what a physical exam means. So if you go to your doctor just so they can listen to your heart and listen to your lungs, I mean, I'll be honest with you, that's pretty useless. But you should be going to your doctor for preventative care. But that's going to change depending on what age you are. So when you're a baby, preventative care is getting your full shot of vaccinations. When you're a teenager, preventative care is somebody talking to you about birth control and also screening for like eating disorders and like mental health issues, depression, social anxiety, stuff like that. When you're in your 20s and 30s, there's probably not that much you need to do because there's probably not that much wrong with you. But then you start getting into your 40s and 50s. That's when you have to start thinking about things like blood pressure and cholesterol. So you should start, and all the cardiovascular stuff and all the cancer screenings start after age 50. So it's more about going to see your doctor for the stuff that you need to get done, whether it be a mammogram or a colonoscopy or something else, rather than just going in once a year regularly just because. And I think that's the point that we're trying to make. Now, from a practical point of view, what do people do when they need to get their blood pressure checked or their cholesterol medication renewed? They get a 1-year follow-up because we've just fallen into that sort of regularity of pattern because 12 months just makes sense to us from a scheduling standpoint. So it's a bit of 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But yeah, you shouldn't go to your doctor just because. You should go to your doctor to check specific things, which as we get older tends to be blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, et cetera, et cetera.
So at my advanced age, over say 60, for example, do I go every year just to have my blood pressure checked and, do the heart monitor thing? Is that really necessary if I don't have any kind of complaints or conditions of any kind?
Well, for the blood pressure, yes. But then again, you can check your blood pressure at home. And we are moving towards this model of getting stuff out of the doctor's office, right? So you could check your blood pressure at your, pharmacy or get a blood pressure monitor at home. After the age of 50, even the age of 40, you should be checking your cholesterol. Now, if it's always been normal, maybe you don't have to do it every year. You can space it out a little bit, but you should check that stuff. You should get a colonoscopy every 10 years or get fecal occult blood testing to check for colon cancer. So there is specific stuff you should do.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to keep that in mind. All right, Dr. Labos, thank you so much. Appreciate it as always.
My pleasure.
Dr. Chris Labos, who, by the way, you can hear. He's a regular contributor on CJAD. He is on every Sunday on Weekends with Joanne Vrakas at 7:20. So that's 7:20 on Sundays.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.